What are you thinking about recruiting so far?
It's a great life.
Yeah.
I was a little bit skeptical to come over here because all I've ever done is infantry stuff, the ground pounder, knuckle dragon stuff. And I was actually just talking to one of my buddies from the infantry company about 5 minutes ago. And I told him this has been the best broadening assignment I've ever done. I know more about the Army than I ever have. And it's been awesome.
Well, you came over here kind of like in a storm. Like you walked over here and you just went right after your mission and you made your mission. And it's just maybe methodical is the wrong way to look at it, but it's very methodical how you move forward. Like every day is very task and detail oriented and accomplish those tasks. And you get up the next day and it's just, it appears that nothing phases you. Right. And appearance, right? Appearance that nothing in recruiting phases you. And it's refreshing. So anyway, I don't know if that's really how it is in the field.
I've adopted you almost kind of just got to let go. So you got to have an I don't care attitude, at least externally. Obviously, there's stuff that bothers me, but you can't show it. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of yelling at the rain clouds.
I haven't. But a couple of years back out in the desert, we were doing some training, and fairly late in my career, and I figured out the secret. And it was, how it is in the desert. It's always windy, always raining. It's miserable out there. It was cold, maybe, 35, 40 degrees. And just looking out over my people as a squad leader, and they were all miserable. So I decided to motivate them. And so here it is, blowing wind and raining. And I started yelling at the clouds. I told them that they wouldn't rain. And next thing I know, all my people are yelling at the clouds too. And I've never seen a bunch of motivated, cold people before. And that was my defining moment. That all you got to do is have a little bit of fun with it, and it's all good. Welcome back to GI and a Cup of Joe. Once again, I'm here with Annie T.
Just a regular girl, and I'm here with Justin C.
Just a regular guy.
In this podcast, we'd like to take off the rank and get right down to just being a regular person who made a random decision to wear a uniform in the Idaho Army National Guard. All of us come from very different backgrounds, but we do have one common goal: to better our future.
Not just to better our future for ourselves, but for our families and the ones we love. We encourage you to listen to each story and see how regular people with average grades, average attitudes, and common fears about their future find their strength and their ability to be resilient and to be able to accomplish extraordinary things.
Welcome to Season 2.
So let's step into this off-highway vehicle thing. What is your favorite, and where do you go?
So the favorite thing, it changes. A couple of months ago, I would have said it would have been I've got a Raptor 700, which is a go-fast quad. And I like to ride that thing all over the place. There's no shortage of areas to ride in this, in the Treasure Valley. But recently, I picked up a Generation III Tacoma. And I told myself that I wasn't going to take it off-road. I was going to treat it nice. And that lasted about 2 months. And my little son, he really likes that thing. He doesn't really like the other off-road vehicles that much, but he gets a blast out of driving in the truck. And so that is becoming my favorite thing to drive. And I just take that down to Kuna Butte. That's about 10 minutes, south of my house. And it's I go right out there for a couple of hours and come back. It's awesome.
Well, today we're talking to officially, he's Staff Sergeant Zach Doglieto, but honestly, just Zach. So let's go back to high school. Zach, where did you go?
So I'm like one of the villains, right? Because I'm from California.
Oh, dear.
I went to Franklin High School in Elk Grove, California.
I used to live in Sacramento.
Okay.
I know exactly where that's at.
Yep.
Grass Valley, Nevada City, over here.
Yeah. So we're
all
all like,
neighbors,
we all like
practically.
keep it on the down low, right?
Yeah.
No one. I'm like,
We're
no,
going to edit this out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what kind of student were you?
Not a very good one.
Okay.
So I was bored, I think. School was never really my thing until much later in life. But I never really found enjoyment in school, and so I gave it the absolute bare minimum. So D's for diploma.
I like that.
It does stand.
C's get degrees.
Yeah.
What was your favorite subject? Did you have one?
No, not really. I've always been kind of a history buff, but my favorite subject was leaving at the end of the day.
I like that.
Again, popular topic.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. What about hobbies? Anything to pass the time in high school?
Yeah, so I grew up playing ice hockey, which is kind of an outlier
Oh, wow.
in the state of California. But all the way from being a little guy till actually shortly before I enlisted in the regular Army, I played ice hockey competitively across the state and then recreationally after I graduated high school.
Do you play here in Idaho now?
I don't. It's
What?
in my recruiting area, and I still have my bag in my garage, but it's in the wrong direction. And
Okay.
we're so busy as recruiters, and then I've got to go get my kids, and it
Life.
doesn't really work time wise. It is on my list of things to do though. Even as a recruiting event, just go drop in and go talk to the people on the ice.
Nice.
I don't know.
I didn't know that.
I was born in Minnesota. We played ice hockey all the time, and I couldn't stand it. I hated every second of it. But it's because my feet point out, So, yeah.
You do the splits.
I do. Falling all the time, which was what led into cheerleading. I naturally do this already. So,
That's amazing.
yep. So thinking back to your senior year, what kind of path did you have set for yourself for your future?
I fell into the same stereotype as everybody else, go to college. I didn't know what I wanted to do in college initially, and then I tossed around the idea of being a personal trainer. I actually went through and took the accreditation process for that and became a personal trainer and worked at a gym called California Family Fitness, which you may recognize, for a little bit. Went to a community college also, and never really found my thing. Wasn't happy with that. Ended up dropping out of community college and then just worked full-time at the gym.
Okay. So full-time at the gym to raising your right hand. What happened in between that?
This is a funny story. I impulse enlisted. I got in an argument with a supervisor, and basically that supervisor, I'm an 18-year-old personal trainer, right? No one wants an 18-year-old personal trainer who just graduated high school, right? So I wasn't very successful as a personal trainer, and I had a supervisor basically tell me that I was worthless. And I said, well, I'll show you. And I walked down to the recruiting office, and the Army happened to be on the left side, which was where I parked, and I walked in, and about two weeks later, I was raising my right hand. It was a different time to join back then, as you know.
Yeah.
And so, that's how I joined.
That's amazing.
That's probably the best enlistment story I've heard. All right, so got in an argument with your supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, did that attitude translate to you and drill sergeants?
I feel like I was actually a bit timid.
Yeah?
I was a bit timid initially going through initial training, and then even when I showed it to my first unit in the regular Army, it's different. It's different than it is here. It wasn't my cup of tea. And I tell people that all the time, like, hey, the active Army was not the right lifestyle for me. It was a lot of, it was not a fun experience for me. I'd grown up I had never really strayed far from my parents' house, and the next thing I knew, I was in Fort Hood, Texas, and I had nothing. I had nothing. I didn't know anybody. People were mean, and so I was a bit timid for a little bit until I sort of came out of my shell and filled a leadership role.
So what experience from boot camp stands out the best for you?
It's kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But what I remember most is I found out that I have a reaction to ant bites, fire ants, right? And so most of my military career has been spent in the South where fire ants exist. And I got bit on the left wrist by an ant, and I watched a weird red line travel up my arm. Didn't have tattoos at that point, right? That's been a while. But I watched a weird red line travel up my arm, and then come into my chest. And I said, hey, this is probably a bad thing. And it was actually blood poisoning.
Oh, my goodness.
And so I went to sick hall. I tried to pass it off because I didn't, you hear stories about people getting recycled. I didn't want that. I wanted to be done. And it all worked out. But yeah, that was an eye-opening experience, just watching that progress. And
yeah.
Seems
The death line march up your arm.
It was scary.
Drink water, take IBUs.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Get out of my office. What was the best piece of advice you received from a drill sergeant?
Maybe it wasn't even advice, but my senior drill sergeant was very quiet. He was not very big, and he carried himself with a level of nonverbal presence that I admire. So he conducted himself in a way that he didn't have to talk to me. for me to be scared of him, for me to respect him. And I admire that presence. And I've tried to carry that presence forward in my career.
So you said you were in the active duty first?
Correct.
So what do you think the biggest differences between active duty and the Guard would be?
Not training, which is what was my biggest misconception about coming to the National Guard, is that the training would be subpar. And I actually was pleasantly surprised to find that that was not the case. The biggest difference is you are 24/7 Army. You live, you sleep, you eat, you drink Army. And there's no escape from it. Whereas for us in the Guard, we do our thing 1 weekend a month, and then you take the uniform off, you throw it in a pile in the corner, and then you forget about it. You forget about it, and then you get your drill letter, and then a week later you're doing it again. But for me, it was that constant Army all the time.
Just not a chance for a personal life?
Nope, especially not in the barracks.
What military job did you choose when you went active duty?
So here's another funny story, right? And so I took the ASVAB and scored fairly high on it. And my parents were obviously concerned, which is something that we encounter still as recruiters, is concerned parents. And they said, whatever you do, don't be enlisted and don't be a grunt. So you know what I did?
Yeah.
Enlisted as an 11 Bravo in the infantry. And that actually turned out to be the best thing that I could have done. I love this job, or I love the job that I did. And I carry a lot of traits that I learned in that job forward into what I do today.
You hadn't been in the battalion that long when we had this land navigation course up in Idaho that a soldier ended up disappearing on. And I remember I got there in the afternoon, and we had stayed until pretty much the next morning, right? It was, but you had been there longer than that already. And I remember driving up the road in a GSA, just kind of running progress checks on people, and you were with, I believe, Staff Sergeant Walker.
Correct.
And both of you guys were just coming up with this, like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to shoot back azimuths, and we're going to look at this map, and we're going to go to this degrees, and here's what we're going to go search here, and we're going to do that. It was just listening to you guys converse in that Infantry 11 series language to find that was an impressive, just from where I'm at. I know that everybody that I was in the car with was pretty impressed. We're like, all right, we got the right guys on the job.
Real Army people.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was an interesting night.
Yeah.
That was an interesting night. It was. And it wasn't fun, right? Because we're talking about the safety of a soldier. But if you take that and you get rid of that, just walking through the woods at night, I think we racked up like 15 miles of walking. That was kind of fun.
Yeah.
That was kind of nice. It was a peek back into my previous assignments in the Army.
Did you keep that in West when you joined the Guard? Or
I did.
You didn't reclass?
No, and I had come over to the Guard in 2017, and the Charlie Company, which is now an infantry company, had just recently been converted into an infantry company from a scout company. So I kind of looked out there. I actually came over into the sniper section, though. That sounded like a cooler thing. And then about 6 months later, I was pulled into the infantry company by now Sergeant Major Maisie. He said, hey, come work for me. And I said, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, I think just having talked to those guys, we've seen a lot of guys transition into the recruiting and retention battalion, and we have never received as many phone calls about, hey, how's this guy doing? Hey, how's this guy doing? Right? So wherever you came from, everybody was impressed by your performance there, and they are constantly and regularly checking up on you. Like, yeah, he's doing great, right? And we're like, yeah, he's fantastic. So you leave a mark wherever you step. So that would probably be the one thing that I recognize the most about you. Very influential.
So what about your eyes? What has been the greatest accomplishment in your eyes?
As far as in recruiting?
Just your whole military career.
I've done a bunch of stuff in the Army. I've had a couple of tours overseas. I've had tours in seas. I've done continental United States mobilizations with the Washington D.C. response, and that was cool. And I've had several duty assignments. I created the weapons qualification program for the state, really more managed that. But by far, my biggest accomplishment has been pretty recent, and that is I get to influence every single new soldier in the Treasure Valley before they get to go to their units. And so I take pride in the fact that I get to leave some knowledge with these new recruits, and hopefully they can retain that for the rest of their career. I was taught something, it was a 9-line medevac request. I was taught that by some random guy about 6 months into my career, and I never forgot it. I don't remember his name. I don't even really remember what he looks like. But the fact that he was able to impart that knowledge on me in a 10-minute block of instruction sitting at a picnic bench in the barracks, and the fact that I can do that now to these new recruits is probably my biggest accomplishment. I think it's awesome.
I think that's great.
Yeah, that's a fantastic
Mentorship's
answer.
a powerful thing.
It is, especially when you care.
Right.
I know you spend a lot of time in high schools, and you're probably running into high school students who have no idea what they want to do with their future. So what is your go-to piece of advice for all those high school students that have no idea what they want to do with their future?
Take the student ASVAB. It's paired with the career exploration program. It's my favorite thing to do because it takes aptitude and meshes it with a personality survey, and it spits out a list of potential careers. And a lot of times they match with what these students think they're going to do, but every now and then they'll be like, well, I never thought about that. That'd be super cool. So that's my biggest piece of advice. If you have no idea what you're doing, take that student ASVAB and sit down for that career exploration program and figure out what you could potentially do with your life.
You know, I'm a product of that too, because I had no idea until I took that test, and it opened up my eyes really wide when I found out.
Yeah, I actually took the career exploration portion of that probably in 2010 just to see.
To do it?
And everything that I landed on, and maybe it was skewed because of, I've already years into my life. All of that stuff I had tried, like law enforcement. I've worked in a chemical plant before, stuff like that. All of that stuff came up as interest to me, but the military was the largest, and so here I am. So, yeah, it was good. We got a final question for you. Maybe the most important question. I think I said it to everybody.
Yeah, it's very important.
Yeah, is Sasquatch real?
Of course.
See?
I like it.
He's
How
right
hard
there.
was that?
He's right there behind you.
Yeah.
Dude, that's what we're saying.
So, and we need to be tracking this, right? Because the
Yeah.
11 series guys who actually spend time in the woods are like, oh yeah, absolutely, he exists, right? And then everybody that doesn't know where the woods are
Right.
like, oh man, I need more research. I gotta look this up. I don't know. I see him on Instagram.
Right.
So
I watched a YouTube video.
yeah, okay.
Oh, wait, we have some Sergeant Major's grass.
Oh,
Okay.
sorry,
We
Major's
almost
grass.
got away from it, but we said ASVAB. We just didn't explain what ASVAB, what the ASVAB is.
ASVAB, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery. It's the test you take to get into the military. Kind of gives you a score to see what you qualify for. And then the SASVAB version of that just stands for school ASVAB.
And that's the one that'll tell you what you're good at, right?
Right. It's the same test, but there is what we call the career exploration program that accompanies that.
Okay.
Usually about 2 weeks after that test is taken.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Somebody referenced GSA. I don't know who said that. Maybe you?
Government Service Auto. So those are all the government plated vehicles.
And then 11 Bravo is just your military job.
Correct.
Infantry.
That is the military job code for infantry.
And then I think I dropped the phrase reclass, but you can explain it.
Reclass is when you make a decision to go get another job. Go
And
get
it's
another.
really easy to do in the Guard.
It is.
Which I might add is unique to the National Guard. So it was unheard of to change jobs where I came from, short of you could go be a door gunner on a helicopter as an infantry guy. That was okay, and it was okay to go to like special forces, but that was it. It was not, you either got out or you got out to change your job.
Okay. All right.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. We'd like to thank our guests and our production crew for their time.
Join us every Wednesday here on GI and a Cup of Joe. See you next week.